Whether you live in South Africa, the south side of Chicago, or South Houston, you gotta worry about carjackings and know what to do to defend yourself. Hi everyone, welcome to today's lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I'm your host, John Correa. Today, we have multiple videos from South Africa, from Houston, and from Chicago. If you use an AR-15 for home defense, you need to practice with your trigger and your sights. The Mantis Blackbeard allows you to do that much more effectively. It's a drop-in bolt carrier group and magazine that works with your trigger and your sights in your rifle to give you real-time feedback and reset your trigger up to 10 times a second. I use it all the time to be more proficient as a carbine shooter, and I recommend it highly. First one's out of South Africa. You see the little red sports car here. Looks like a 240SX to me. I don't know what it actually is though. Dude comes, points a gun at them, and then opens the door, and now he and his partner are gonna take all their stuff out of the car while a bystander walks by, and they're just gonna run off. Now you can see the lady in the car who is then going to walk off for a minute and then end up coming back. Looks like they ripped open like the side of the, like the door panel or something like that. She grabbed her purse back off the top of the car and is putting the door panel back on while they drive off and get the heck out of there. Second one here, out of Chicago, this couple in their Range Rover waiting for a car wash, and these guys come up, point guns at them, or a gun at the very least. Don't see what the second guy has. And this couple then is going to abandon their vehicle, but our perp is not done yet. He is going to then frisk our driver down. Where's your cell phone, man? It's in the car. It's in the car, he says. So he's going to go back in and show him, here, man, here's my cell phone, whatever. This couple is then going to run off and away while these two perps are going to drive off in their beautiful, fairly new Range Rover, and apparently cops are still looking for those guys too. Next one. This one's out of Houston. This lady, 12:15 in the morning, sitting in the parking lot of a convenience store. Dude jumps out of his car, opens her door, points a gun at her, grabs her purse, and now he is going to run over to the other side of the car and grab her out of the car and put her on the ground, point a gun at her head. She says, everything's in my purse, man. And then he is going to jump back in his crappy Civic and run off. I don't know if it was crappy or not, but it's crappy because he's in it for sure. And she was thankfully unharmed. Now this last one, again, out of South Africa. You can see on the left side, a couple waiting to get into their gated community. These dudes roll up and jump out and box them in next to the gate there where they can't go anywhere. We change perspective. Dude just comes up, starts pointing guns at people, and they start kind of waving at him and trying to grab a hold of their stuff, and that drives the guys off. Apparently, I don't have any information that they were armed or anything like that. Dude comes back and demands their car, but they're just not having it, straight up. And so they're gonna hand fight with these guys. Guys are gonna decide, maybe that's not enough, and those aren't the people that we wanted to try to rob today. So they're just gonna jump back in their car, and it's gonna take them a little while, but dude's gonna jump into one side. Our robber's like, oh wait, oh no, the homie's on that side already, so I gotta go around to the other side. Now my door's locked. Somebody let me in the freaking door, would you? And it's like the clowns at the frickin' circus here. They are going to then jump in their car, and our intended victims are waiting for them to get out of the way so that they can get the heck out of the way too. And this one just takes forever for this to happen. Again, I guess these perps, their guns must have been fake or something like that, because even with this guy pointing at him, stuff like that, they're gonna bonk his car and then drive off. And they didn't get anything from them. We got 4 significant lessons to learn here. Let's think about them. If you want to think about the skill sets necessary around your car, we've actually got a series now on Active Self-Protection Extra. I'd invite you to go subscribe over there to our second channel where we work on skills 8 lessons a week. Our first carjacking really teaches us about what are you going to do when you don't have any option to really go anywhere, because this guy just shows up and starts pointing a gun at them. Well, I do think this is a great reason to have a concealed firearm on your person as well. And again, that does depend on where you live and those kinds of things, but I think having a firearm on your person, being somebody who conceal carries, so then that way you're able to protect yourself, because they really don't have a whole lot of place to go here because there's traffic in front of them, so they can't get out ahead, traffic behind them. Now, they might have smushed that guy into the car in front of them, but that's a very difficult thing to do and difficult to teach yourself how to do emotionally. So now, though, this guy, again, is going to point a gun at him. Lock your doors, friends. This is a big thing that we see all the time. If you don't have a firearm on your person, probably compliance is your best bet in this particular case. And I'm not sure why this woman then jumped out and went to the side of the road or something like that, but I do agree with getting out of the danger zone as quick as you can. So she kind of gets back in the car, and then they are going to drive off. Obviously the left seat's a passenger seat in South Africa. Here in Chicago, just waiting for a car wash. But again, first sign of problems here, if you're paying attention, again, attention buys you time, time buys you options, is that one of these perps leaves the sidewalk and goes back behind the car. When you see somebody doing something that doesn't make sense, if they're just gonna walk by in front, they're gonna stay on the sidewalk. So when dudes split like that, that's an indication something's wrong. You ought to pay attention to what he's doing, look in your rearview mirror, and maybe pre-stage your draw. It doesn't mean draw a gun, but it means pre-stage and be ready for that. Because if you had been paying attention, saw something that made you, man, I'm gonna definitely, have to pay attention to what's going on with these guys. Now when he comes and starts drawing a gun, you actually could have been ahead of him at this point. Again, if you saw, nope, there he is, and you got yours out when he comes up to the window, he's not expecting you to be armed. And so again, if you had been paying attention, seen something that was out of the ordinary, then that attention would have bought you time with options. Now, I don't think you would have probably been able to get the car out of there in time because of where they are with the car wash and all that. Somebody's behind him and all this stuff. So these are another one of those instances where having a firearm on your person is probably your best bet at this point if you're going to resist. Now, compliance did work in this case, so that's okay. Again, next problem that we see here as a dude opens the door is that even if he had the door locked, he had his window down. And so that negates the advantage of having the locked door. So yes, I do recommend lock your door and roll your windows up. That is a defensive tool. Again, the barrier there gives you time to get stuff done. And I know you go, well, he's got a gun, but man, we see it on the channel all the time with people that because they're behind just a locked door with a rolled up window, gives them an opportunity to counter ambush, especially if you live in a place where you can tint your windows pretty good and it's hard to see what you're doing inside. Now, compliance worked okay in this case. But if you'd have wanted to get after this guy, there are options. You see here, he's got the gun in close proximity, and then our perp looks away. So if he was looking for a chance to counter ambush and disarm this guy, practice those 5Ds +1, this was a great opportunity. Dude has the gun in close proximity with him, so he's done the +1 and controlled the distance. Then he's also looked away. So for the moment, he actually has dominance over him as well because he can then get after the guy. So then he can, again, get both hands on that gun, go to work, probably take it away from him fairly easily if he was looking to do so. Now, the fact that he's not trained to do so means he's probably a bad idea to try to do so in that moment, but he had an opportunity there if he wanted. Now, if he's a concealed carrier, he also had another opportunity here to end that threat if he chose to. Now, I get it. And you say, well, wait a minute, are these guys still a deadly threat? Yeah, probably for another few seconds or so. So if this guy was a concealed carrier, got back behind him and drew a gun and shot him immediately there, I think that probably would have been justifiable. And Illinois is now a shall issue CCW state. And so, saying, well, it's Chicago, he can't have a gun is actually not true. He probably could have if he wanted to. So, but I think the idea of what they did really well here is they notice this man and his wife, they get away. They don't just stand there and wait for these guys to drive off in their car. They run off in the rearward direction as well, which gets them in a safer place. And I think that was a really good idea. Now, this next one, out of Houston. First of all, we got to follow the rules of stupid here. Farnham's Law as amended. Don't go stupid places with stupid people at stupid times and do stupid things. Generally, you can get away with breaking one rule of stupid, but when you break two rules of stupid, bad things tend to happen, and the chances of them go up significantly. And in this particular case, it's 12:15 in the morning, and she's in the parking lot of a convenience store. Convenience store is a stupid place. Anytime, really, honestly, between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., if you can be indoors, you should probably be indoors. That's what good, sane, sober, moral, prudent people generally do. And so therefore, again, you've broken two rules of stupid here. Next problem that we're going to see, she doesn't have her doors locked. It's 12:15. She's in the parking lot of a convenience store next to a car that is pulled in backwards and sitting there, and she doesn't have her doors locked. Lock your stinking doors, friends. Please hear me. Locking your doors, again, creates a barrier, and that barrier buys you time. Of course, that helps significantly if you have the car and you are in gear and the car is running. So sitting in a non-running car, sitting in with the car not in gear, that would be much more difficult. But if her door was locked, she probably could have then hit the gas, got the heck out of there and gotten away from the guy. Instead, he gets in there and then starts to come around. Now again, another opportunity right here. If the car is running, if the car is in gear, that she can almost certainly then get the heck out of there if she has that availability. Also, an opportunity for a counter ambush here Because again, he's expecting her to be compliant, that if she was waiting, okay, man, oh, geez, I made a huge mistake, take my purse. As he comes around, nope, it's time for a gunfight. Get that gun out quickly, get that gun out with speed and accuracy, and you might have been able to do that. Now, again, she didn't really get badly hurt here, but he does put her on the ground and stick a gun to her face, so that's pretty scarring emotionally. That's a pretty big deal, and he was absolutely a deadly threat. I'm really grateful that she wasn't hurt on this one, but some lessons there for sure. Now, the final one that we had out of South Africa, this one's kind of crazy because apparently this woman is a counselor, and she was trying to drop her son off with her husband and her son at a friend's house, and that's why they're waiting for security there. Now, notice that these guys come up, block them in. So when you're in these transitional spaces and wherever there's a gate, there's a transitional space like this, because you got to wait for it to open for you and wait for it to get closed until it's safe, you are going to have danger of this. So pay attention to your world. Be ready to go if you have to. Now, dudes are going to come up, and if you go read the news story I've linked in the description on this one, she says that her husband was sitting in the passenger seat, which is kind of rare, and they really think that this was a carjacking is what they were after, as they were after the vehicle. Now, of course, you might just give up the vehicle at this point because the news story says he did shoot at her at the end of this. So this was a real gun. And recognize that, hey man, your attitude is great. No, I'm not going to give up my stuff, but you have the skills and the plan to back that up. This is South Africa. You can get a firearms permit there, so I would strongly recommend that you do, because coming after and trying to grab a hold of this guy's gun while he is, has a vote in the matter as well, very difficult to do. And of course, he gets a vote in that matter. So if you can't control the distance, notice that he kind of tried to grab at the gun, but the bad guy gets a vote as well. And so if you start that disarm technique from too far of a distance, you will miss. And I think here he was very lucky that the guy didn't take that as an ego challenge and decide to shoot him. Now, I do think that a lot of these carjackers, thankfully, are not murderers. And when they go, nah, this is going to be too hard of a carjacking for us to pull off, they decide to go and find an easier, target. Now, I know we're going to say, well, wait a minute, why don't you go back and hit him and those kinds of things? This is a brand new Range Rover and may not have that possibility. I will say that maybe going through the gate might be the right choice in this particular case. And flooring it, seeing if you can get through the gate and get away from these guys, even if it's going to do damage to your car and damage to the gate, might have been the right choice. Or using the fact that you got a little ground clearance to get over those curbs and get away from those guys as quickly as possible. But tough to say because you can't see from inside, and see exactly what she's able to do in those things. Now, this stuff is kind of clown shoe stuff. It's, clowns at the circus, these guys trying to get away. And our driver, she's just waiting like, oh, I got to wait for these guys to get out of my way. No, you don't. You have the ability to jump curbs. Remember, when you have horsepower and ground clearance, curbs are a suggestion, not a rule. Make sure that you use that. Now, again, we see the fact that he actually took a shot at her there, but thankfully that shot missed and they were able to drive off. So on this one, man, pick your battles, friends, because sometimes you can put yourself at really deadly risk if you don't. 4 different carjackings here, or attempts at robberies and carjackings, but a lot of lessons for us to think about. Let's make sure we put them into play and cover our asp.